Good evening. This is the August 28th, 2023 special work session. In the event of an emergency, we ask that everyone remain calm and exit the doors to the right. Take a right and go down the stairs. If by any way that way is blocked, take a left and go around the corner down the stairs. Please do not use the elevator. If you need assistance, please let us know. If you plan to speak during the public comments period, at the conclusion of the meeting, please fill out a form on the table to the right of the door you came in and give it to the city clerk. I'll now call the special work session to order. Please join us at the table, Acting Chief Mindshine.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here again. I've got some more good news. I'll take the good news because we have a situation again with one of our canines. This is a relatively new dog, Zanzi. I haven't been with this too long, but he's experienced a dental emergency. This is a canine that occasionally, talking to the vet services, that happens with biting issue, chewing on the cage, chewing on bowls, things like that, but occasionally happens where they need to do emergency because it's a situation with the root of the tooth. That's why I asked to come before you today. I'll follow this up with an ordinance to accept the funds. But these implants are relatively expensive. Not relatively, they are expensive. They're about almost just $10,000. You have a briefing packet I gave you earlier. The news is we have a donor. It's another nonprofit in the packet, Canine Spikes Canine Fund Situation. This is an animal that was killed in the line of action, military service, started a fund, and part of their mission is to donate to police, veteran services, and so forth for these type of situations. So they're willing to pay the entire bill, just under $10,000 for this service.
Okay, do we have consensus?
Just,
Do you
I
have
think,
questions?
Do we need to, doesn't need to be an ordinance, probably just needs to be a resolution. If they're paying for it, so, okay.
Yes.
Yep, this is good, yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Great.
Do we have consensus to move this item to the legislative session?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
This
Thank you. You're welcome.
special
Chief.
work session is now adjourned. Council will now convene in the regular scheduled August 28th, 2023 legislative session. There will be a closed session immediately following the adjournment of this meeting. At this time, will please stand for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll invite Reverend David L. McClendon of the St. James AME Zion Church forward to provide the city invocation.
Amen. Let us pray. Gracious and eternal God, our Father, I pray that you will guide our city council as they meet and discuss matters regarding our city. I pray, Heavenly Father, that they shall choose to do which is moral and rational. It is my prayer that they be motivated in everything that they do for the good of the public and not of their own interests. I pray that they will be able to solve our city problems and make good policies that address them. Help them to be competent and excellent in their governance. Most of all, Heavenly Father, I pray that those who do not know you as Lord and Savior, that they will encounter you, surrender their lives to you, and live a life that glorifies you. For these and all of thy eternal blessings we humbly and we prayerfully ask in the only name that really matters, in the name of our Lord and our Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend McClendon. I call for a motion and a second to adopt the legislative agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Could I have a motion, well, we have adopted the legislative agenda, could I have a motion to adopt it and make sure someone seconds it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. A motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Michelle.
Good evening. On the consent agenda tonight, we have the June 20th, 2023 work session minutes, special meeting minutes, and closed session minutes, the July 5th work session minutes, and the July 10th council meeting minutes. Resolution number 3276, approving the appointment of Luke Angela to the Youth Development Advisory Committee for term ending August 2026. Resolution number 3277, approving the appointment of Amy Gonzalez to the Disability Advisory Committee for term ending August 2026. Resolution number 3278, approving the appointment of Alicia Miller to the Youth Development Advisory Committee for term ending August 2026. Resolution number 3279, approving the appointment of Andrea Post to the Youth Development Advisory Committee for term ending August 2026. And 3280, approving the appointment of Joseph Venosa to the Truth Committee for term ending August 2027. That's it.
All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Any nays? All ayes, thank you. I'd like to thank Lou Angelot, if he's present. Stan,
Angela.
Angelo, Amy Gonzalez, Alicia Miller, Andrea Post, and Joseph Venosa. Thank you so much for standing on our committee.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we're here for resolutions, which will be presented by our city director, Andy Kitzrow. Resolution. I'd like to get a motion to approve resolution number 3281.
So moved. Second.
Resolution number 3281, a resolution of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, appointing Dan Alchek Esquire and the attorneys of Saul Ewing LLP as special counsel, whereas Section SC 9-1 of the Charter of the City of Salisbury provides in pertinent part, there shall be a Department of Law headed by the city solicitor. The city solicitor and any assistant city solicitor shall be appointed by and serve at the pleasure of the mayor and a majority of the full council. Whereas the City of Salisbury is requiring services of a special counsel for labor training and negotiations, whereas the administration, with the approval of council, desires to appoint special counsel to advise the city and provide legal representation for and on behalf of the city with respect to issues related to a newly adopted labor code. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Salisbury Council thereby appoints Dan Alchek Esquire and the attorneys of Saul Ewing LLP to serve as special counsel for the city pursuant to Article IX of the city charter, and be it further enacted and resolved by the Salisbury City Council that this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Anything? All those in, go ahead.
Nothing. I know that we had discussed this thoroughly at our work session, and he was on Zoom, and we got a chance to ask him a lot of questions and felt very satisfied with his services.
All those in favor of resolution number 3281, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair votes aye. Okay, we're going into our special work session discussion? No, I done turned the wrong page, I'm sorry. The ordinances presented by City Attorney Ashley Boche. Shay?
You got it.
Could I have a motion
So moved?
and a second?
Second.
And we're approving 2818 at this time right now. That's the motion in the second.
Good evening, everyone. Ordinance number 2818, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to appropriate funds for the raw water line Naylor Mill project.
Oh,
Who is this?
okay.
Who's doing this?
Whoa.
It's not even someone who was in the meeting either.
That was
How
rough.
do you stop that? This is not funny. This is
It's
too
not.
serious.
It's not.
This is too serious.
You're quick.
What?
You're quick.
Sorry.
This is the second time doing this.
Security has no one who can get in there, so. It's actually not even sharing their screen, like they've hacked the server, so. All right.
Probably move on without the Zoom.
Yep, we'll be fine.
Okay, all right.
So, again, I think ordinance number 2818 is ordinance of the City of Salisbury authorizing the mayor to appropriate funds for the raw water line Naylor Mill project. This is before council for second reading. There have been no changes or amendments since first reading.
Are there any questions or comments in reference to this ordinance 2818? All those in favor of ordinance number 2818 for second reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2819. Could I have a motion to approve ordinance 2819 and a second for the second reading?
So moved. Second.
Ordinance number 2819, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to accept grant funds for the Maryland Department of General Services in the amount of $250,000 for the design of the Zoo Andean Bear exhibit. As you mentioned, this is before council for second reading. There have been no changes or amendments since first reading.
Okay. All those in favor of ordinance 2819 for second reading, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any nays? And the chair votes aye. This is ordinance 2820. Could I have a motion to approve ordinance 2820 for first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Ordinance number 2820, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to approve a budget amendment of the FY24 general fund budget to appropriate funds received from the Blue Heron Agility Association of Delaware. Whereas the Blue Heron Agility Association of Delaware wishes to donate $4,000 to the Salisbury Police Department to be used for the purchase of police canine bulletproof vests. And whereas this donation will provide a direct benefit to the Salisbury Police Department canine program, and accordingly, the Salisbury Police Department desires to accept the donation. And whereas Section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter prohibits the city from entering into an agreement that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the council of the city, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this donation must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council. Section 1 of Ordinance 2820 reads, "The City of Salisbury's fiscal year 2024 general fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows. A, increase general fund revenue donations other account number 01000-456415 by $4,000. And B, increase police department animal supplies account number 21021-546010 by that same amount, which is $4,000.
All those in favor of ordinance 2820 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2821. Could I have a motion to approve ordinance 2821 for the first reading?
So
So-
moved.
Second.
Michelle, you on the one today?
Ordinance number 2821, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury amending Section 17.04.120 of the Salisbury City Code to include a definition for clinic residential and amending Section 17.160.030 of the Salisbury City Code to add clinic residential to the category of uses permitted by special exception in the R5A zoning district. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, and enforcement of Title 17 governing zoning of the city code demonstrates a need for its periodic review, evaluation, and amendment in order to keep the provisions of Title 17 current, comply with present community standards and values, and to promote the health, safety, welfare of its citizens. Whereas the mayor and council of the city are authorized by Maryland Local Government Article Section 5-202 to adopt such ordinances not contrary to the Constitution of Maryland, public general law, or public local law, as mayor and council deem necessary to assure the good government of the municipality, to preserve peace and order, to secure persons and property, and damage and destruction, and to protect the health, comfort, and convenience of the citizens of the city. Whereas mayor and council may amend Title 17 of the city code pursuant to the authority granted in Maryland Code Annotated Land Use, Section 4-102, subject to the provisions set forth in section of our city code 17.228.020. Whereas the use is permitted inherently and by special exception in the R5A district currently include care facilities and neighborhood places of assembly such as worship centers with daycare facilities, meeting rooms, and schools of general instruction. The inclusion of community clinics as defined in section 17.04120 would provide an additional but still substantially similar use option in the R5A district. Whereas mayor and council find that the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the city will be furthered by amending section 17.160.030 of the Salisbury City Code to permit community clinics in the R5A zoning district. Whereas pursuant to section 17.228.020 of the city code, any amendment to the Salisbury zoning code requires recommendation of the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission prior to the passage of an ordinance amending chapter 17. Whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Planning Commission in accordance with the provisions of 17.228.020 of the City Code on June 15th of 2023. Whereas at the conclusion of that June 15th, 2023 meeting, the Planning Commission recommended by a vote of 6-0 that amendments to section 17.04.120 and 17.160.030 of the Salisbury City Code set forth herein be approved by mayor and council. And whereas mayor and council have determined that amendments to section 17.04.120 and 17.160.030 of the Salisbury City Code shall be adopted as set forth. So, ordinance number 2821, section 1 reads as follows. We are adding bulleted and underlined language. So I'm going to direct your attention to the changes in this particular section, which is again 17.160.120. On line starting 44, defining clinic residential, which means a place used for the outpatient care, diagnosis, and treatment of sick, ailing, infirmed, or injured persons, and those who are in need of medical or surgical attention, but who are not provided with board or room, nor kept overnight on the premises. Behavioral and mental health counseling, community wellness outreach, and education may also be provided. Medication-assisted treatment, known as MAT, for addiction is not permitted. Section 2, which is amending section 17.160.030, which is entitled Uses Permitted by Special Exception, would be amended as follows. Going to line 64, subsection F will be added, and it will read as follows. Clinic, residential in the R5A district on a minimum lot of 1 acre in accordance with a comprehensive site plan as approved by Planning Commission with the following. 1, the requirements for medical and dental clinic and office in section 17.196.030 shall be used to determine parking space requirements. 2, screening from adjoining residential uses consisting of a fence 6 feet in height and a 20-foot wide landscaped area shall be included on the comprehensive site plan approved by the Planning Commission. And 3, a sign plan shall be approved by Planning Commission in accordance with section or chapter 17.216.120. And those are all the changes.
Thanks, Ashley.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2821 for first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. There will be a public hearing on this tax amendment on September the 25th, 2023. Okay. Ordinance number 2822. Could I have a motion to approve ordinance 2822 for the first reading?
So moved.
Second?
Ordinance number 2822, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland to convert Calvert Street from US 13 Business North to 300 feet west to one-way westbound traffic only. Whereas the Salisbury City Charter, Section SC 11-2, gives the city charge all public ways of the city. And whereas Calvert Street intersections US 13 Business, where access is currently limited to right in, right out only. And whereas automobile accidents persist at that intersection due to eastbound traffic attempting illegal left-hand turns. And whereas the conversion to a one-way traffic on Calvert Street from US 13 to 300 feet west of the intersection with US Business will increase safety by eliminating a common cause of automobile accidents in the area, improve operations at the intersection, and allow the city to convert underutilized space to new on-street parking. And whereas the state's attorney's office will require access to its back driveway, 55 feet from Poplar Hill Avenue, and whereas the city will place signage and markings to delineate such changes. Section 1 of Ordinance 2822 reads as follows: for the purposes and reasons herein set forth, Calvert Street shall be converted to one-way traffic from US 13 to 300 feet west from the intersection with US 13 Business.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2822 for first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2823 for first reading, could I have a motion to approve ordinance 2823?
So moved.
Second. Ordinance number 2823, an ordinance for the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY 2024 general fund budget to appropriate additional funds required for legal services. Whereas the City of Salisbury is requiring services of special counsel for labor training and negotiations, where the City of Salisbury has determined an additional $50,000 will be required for these services. Whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the appropriation of $50,000 as provided herein must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury. Section 1 of Ordinance 2823 reads as follows: Acting Mayor John R. Heath is hereby authorized to appropriate funds for special counsel services in the amount of $50,000. Section 2, the City of Salisbury's FY 24 general fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows: increase revenue for account 01000-469810 with description current year surplus in the amount of $50,000. Increase expenditure for account 17000-513302, description other city attorney by that same amount, which is $50,000.
All those in favor of ordinance number 2823 for first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the chair votes aye. Now we're time for public comments. Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome, thank you.
Public comments, and we will have our first Randy Taylor, and you have exactly 4 minutes, Mr. Taylor. Yeah, four.
Randy Taylor, 403 Camden Avenue. Lifelong resident and candidate for mayor 2023, so that's where I wanted to start. But I wanted to talk about tonight was something that actually April said 2 weeks ago when she was saying people coming in, they're upset, and they were complaining about different things, and you were feeling stressed, and they were couldn't quite figure out what was going on. I think more than being frustrated, I think they're feeling like maybe when they get into it and realize what the issues are, they feel like maybe that in some instances people aren't doing their homework. And so what I came here to talk to you about was the project which really kind of got my interest about this whole problem with transparency was the downtown project. And the single greatest asset you guys are putting in play to make that project work is the parking garage. And so when I met with the developer to talk to him, but he said, listen, I said, why aren't you guys doing the parking? Why don't you guys handle the parking? He said, well, I couldn't make the numbers work. So it made me go, well, let me think about that. How is the parking working? How is the cash flow on the parking? So what I did was I put together, I got one of these for you to pass it around. Just a rudimentary cash flow. I went into the existing audit and looked at the parking authority and looked at the cash flow for that. And it looks like about on 600 and some $1,000 in revenue, you make about 60 grand, 70 grand, something like that. So what I did was I put together sort of a pro forma cash flow based on the 455 spot lot that you're building, bonding it at 10 million. I gave you a really good attractive rate, which I'm not even sure you could get right now in the market, but at 2.5%. I'm not sure where it is. We're in the big scheme of things, but. And then I just allotted a series of operating costs that were kind of proportional to your existing garage. And then I gave you credit for what was $75 a space, which is actually $5 more than your top dollar you're getting now, which is twice of what it's been historically. And even with all of that, and assuming it's fully maxed, which I know we've talked about overbooking and that sort of thing, it's losing $430,000. So, and I'm being very conservative. I think the cash burn over the next 18 or 24 months, once you get it built, is probably closer to $1 million. Because you're going to have to wait for the builder to build his project, get it leased up, on and on and on. So all I'm saying tonight is I wanted to give this to you guys, put it on the record, and I want to ask you a question. Has anybody from the council seen a projected cash flow on the parking garage with a raise of hands? So I guess what I was kind of concerned about. And, you guys are talking about bonding for $10 million, and we're talking about potentially subsidizing a parking garage for a project that we're already subsidizing with a lot that we're potentially selling for a fraction of what it assessed for, let alone appraised for, then giving back the impact fees.
4 minutes.
And okay, give me one more second to finish up.
It's
Well, I mean, this is a
4
material,
minutes.
this is a material, I'm actually helping,
Right,
I think I'm
it's
helping, but,
4 minutes.
okay.
It's,
Okay. All right, well, let me ask you this. So last thing I'm going to say.
Thank you.
I'd like a formal response on this one if I could.
well,
Thank you.
I'm not being
don't
rude, but we're trying to
Okay.
limit it to 4 minutes. Thank you.
Fair enough.
And we appreciate this too as well.
Okay.
We have next Mr. Richard Inslee. 4 minutes, Mr. Inslee.
I'll do my best.
All right.
I can tell you that I broke my glasses in half yesterday, so we're going to find out how well I can read without them. I penned a letter to the mayor and council last week, and I'm not sure, I understand you all have been recipients of a lot of correspondence, and so I'm not sure that you've all had a chance to read it, but I'm going to read it to you. Dear Mayor and Council, I'm writing to plead with you to stop the Vision Zero foolishness which has already ruined College Avenue, Fitzwater Street, and about to further ruin Waverly Drive. There's an old adage, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. The Vision Zero plan is intended to enhance safety, but has in fact made the streets more dangerous. Here's why. For years, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety has advocated for removing or moving obstacles away from the traveled portion of the roadway, because when vehicles strike them, they often lose control, resulting in greater danger to occupants and others in the vicinity. Traffic signals, utility poles, guardrails are all a part of the effort to avoid collisions with fixed objects. It saves lives. Vision Zero plan goes in the opposite direction. Let's examine why. These concrete islands have been hit by cars on a regular basis. If you want proof, just look at the black tire marks and chunks knocked out of the concrete. Too many to count. Each one of these is a MVC, a motor vehicle collision. More motor vehicle collisions is not a step in the right direction. Anyone who thinks this enhances safety is badly misinformed. So what happens when a vehicle strikes the obstacle, concrete island? It's always the right front wheel that hits the concrete island, and that immediately spins the steering wheel out of control to the right, causing the vehicle to jump the curb and go over the concrete island into, guess where? The bicycle lane. Sad ending for the bicyclist if they are unfortunate enough to be there. But it doesn't end there. After crossing the bicycle lane, then where does the out-of-control vehicle go? You guessed it again, onto the sidewalk, where of course pedestrians walk. not a happy ending for the pedestrian if they happen to be there. And it doesn't end there. Next is the yard bordering the sidewalk, and woe be if children happen to be playing in the yard. That's not to mention the property damage to the vehicle which hit the curb. Many must be towed away. Does this sound like a way to make bicyclists, pedestrians, and children safer? I don't think so. I witnessed this exact scenario on Fitzwater Street near the intersection of Hill Street a few months ago. The car ended up in someone's yard after crossing the concrete island, the bicycle lane, and the sidewalk. The ambulance arrived as I was passing. Then there is the matter of traffic disruption. The left turn lane was eliminated westbound on College Avenue at Camden Avenue. I have seen westbound College Avenue traffic backed up clear east to Lorcrop Drive because one car was waiting for eastbound traffic to clear so they could make a left turn to go south on Camden Avenue. It took 4 changes of the traffic light to clear the backup. Drivers were angry, blowing their horns, and who could blame them? This is lunacy. I travel College Avenue almost every day, and today I actually saw a bicycle for the first time, and it was not using the bike lane. Okay. Half the roadway's been devoted to less than 1% of the traffic. If I may finish, it's very short. Maybe this plan was well intended, but a mistake is a mistake. If you really want to enhance safety, including bicycles and pedestrians, then stop the installation of these things on Waverly Drive and get rid of the ones on Fitzwater and College Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Ensley.
Thank you, Mr. Inslee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is not to be rude. This is just to keep order. It's not to be rude to anyone, so I don't want anyone to think that we're being rude. There is a time limit. I didn't make the time limit, so, I just want you to know, I'm just doing the job. Just like you do your job, I'm gonna do mine.
I appreciate that, but just let me say that when you limit citizens' ability to speak out, you're walking into dangerous territory.
Yeah, what I say is just one more quick. If you tap it 30 seconds before the 4 minutes would be helpful too. That way they can wrap up their thoughts.
I will do that.
That'd be helpful.
Thank you.
That's all.
Mr. Robert Taylor, 4 minutes, and I will tap 30 seconds before. Thank you.
Bodie, do you have the time clock on that, or do I need to? Okay, fine.
Okay, I'll try to do a 4-minute mile, so I'll talk fast. First thing, Mr. Ensley, $15 at Walgreens. There's a senior discount next Tuesday. And as some full disclosure, I'm not related to that Mr. Taylor. He's a from here. I'm a come here just about 52 years ago today. Hold the applause. Now to get down to brass tacks, I think they're the best kind. In sequence for your meeting tonight, you passed or you approved minutes for the 3 meetings that were held on June 20, which I attended. That would be the work session, then you went into closed session, and then you had a special meeting, at which time you passed the resolution to approve the agreement to sell the 3 parking lots downtown here to the developer, would-be developer, and build the parking garage that Mr. Taylor, that one, spoke to a few minutes ago. Read the minutes, scanned them pretty well. The minutes of the work session are very accurate. They describe the motion that was made to go into closed session very accurately. And let me quote, at 5:26 p.m., President Boda called for a motion to convene in closed session to discuss a legal contract, number 1, and number 2, seek advice from counsel. That was then seconded and it was passed. Now, the minutes for the closed session, they're actually short-form minutes. Sometimes they're called a statement. They're not full minutes. They do not accurately describe that motion. What they say is that Boda called for a motion to enter into a closed session to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter. Nothing about discussing the contract. So there is a very substantial and frankly a legally significant difference here on these minutes. I'm sorry I didn't get around to sending you something saying they ought to be corrected to be accurate, but that's a fact. Now, going a little further into those minutes, I will point out that after the closed session, there was absolutely no significant discussion of the resolution or the contract, the land sales contract. However, there was something where I was referred to by Ms. Alton. She referred to a statement I had made earlier during the work session, which was generally to the effect that the population growth in Salisbury was not nearly as much as it has been in the past. And she mentioned a New York Times article that had just been released. This, of course, now, as she's speaking, on the 20th of June. That article happened to be on the 17th of June in the New York Times, although she did not identify it that way. She characterized it as mentioning that Salisbury was one of the top 10 to see a huge influx of remote workers. Now, I went on and found that article in the New York Times, and it says nothing of the sort. It does mention Salisbury, but it mentions it in terms of the Salisbury Metropolitan Statistical District or area, which is a 4-county area, the biggest being Sussex County, which is now upwards, not quite, 300,000 people. It's about 260, 270. It's larger than all of the Maryland counties in that district put together. And that's where the growth is, and that's what it says in the article. And I'm going to pass it around, give it to Mr. Kitzrow, and you can look at it if you want to. So I guess my time's up, or is that 30
No,
seconds?
that was the 30 seconds.
Okay,
You
well,
have 10 left.
that's about it, I think, for tonight. And we'll be back shortly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Okay, we next have Monica Brooks. And I would like to introduce everyone to Monica Brooks, as the president of the Wycomico County NAACP.
Thank you.
Monica, you have 4 minutes.
I have 4 minutes. I have 4 little lines of notes. Good evening, everyone. The first item I'd like to address is, I'm going to start light and then I'm going to build up. The builders. I know with government contracts, when you put out bids, then it's typically the lowest bidder kind of thing, which I'm assuming is what happened with the Ross Building and things like that. But what I saw, well, so I'm hoping that that's the case, but I really want to see, I saw between the Unity Park and the Ross Building, Harkins Builders, and I'm just trying to find out kind of what is being done to diversify the opportunities for people to contract with the city, diversity, people of color in different areas, so that, you know, and I'm assuming it's to the lowest bidder or whatever for the city, but I don't really know how that works for the city. The other thing is the Truth Committee. I'm glad to see the Truth Committee had their first meeting, which was this past week. And so that I'm looking forward to seeing recommendations that come out of the Truth Committee, with the planning initially that the Truth Committee would be the vessel through which issues of race, discrimination, those sorts of things, recommendations would be coming through that committee, brought to the city and leadership, and then out of that, certain things would be changed and honored. And with that said, we, NAACP, had also made the request for the city of Salisbury to, on behalf, as many other cities are doing, Paris, France, and San Francisco, and all of these things, are atoning for ways that the city participated in discriminatory things and racial things with people of color. With the city of Salisbury moving into the firehouse building, which was erected by the former fire chief, who provided the rope out of that building for the black man who was lynched, which we have a memorial, a lynching memorial right here downtown Salisbury. Out of that building, we have requested a apology on behalf of citizens in general. None of us here were alive during that time. But with that said, I just wanted to say, I reached out to everyone and spoke to the mayor, spoke to council members, and I was told that the mayor has agreed to do this, to make the apology on behalf of the city. And this is for the community at large. This is not saying that I did something personally, but it's on behalf of the city of Salisbury. This will go a long way in showing citizens, particularly Black people, that the city recognizes that there were people in positions of leadership at that time that represented themselves in such a way that was detrimental to Black people. And that we see you, we understand, and we know. We will never let, of course, anything like this ever happen again, and we acknowledge what's happened, but this building that we're now in will be utilized in a completely opposite way. So that is going to go a long way in showing that this city is truly inclusive of all, and that truly cares about the concerns of people that are still talking about it to this very day, not only the descendants of Mr. Matthew, but other residents in the city who, lost Georgetown and cities that were dispersed and various things that have happened. So we're looking forward to this, and any way that we can help in addition to, we thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Did an excellent job of holding it to the T. The next person to speak is Nancy Royston. Thanks, Ms. Royston, and I will tap it twice when you get to the 30 seconds. Thank you.
Sounds good. I'm Nancy Royston, and I live on Beaver Dam Drive. Been a resident of the county since city and the county since 2005. I walk or drive several times a week on Glen Avenue, which connects East Main to Long Avenue, streets that front the middle and the high schools. I recently became aware that the city has some sidewalk improvements planned for Glen Avenue and the nearby neighborhood. All good. Installation of new ADA-compliant curb cut ramps at Beaver Dam Drive, and replacement of some short sections of sidewalk where tree roots have popped up the concrete along Parkway and Monument Circle. Great. But that's it in this project. So I am requesting that the city modify this upcoming project to make the entire length, which is only about 2.5 blocks of sidewalk on one side of Glen Avenue between East Main Street and Long Avenue, wheelchair accessible. This would require 2 more sets of curb cut ramps where Glen intersects Alvin Avenue and Davis Street, and a ramp cut through the existing concrete median strip in the center of Long, right by Y-High. Based on the spray paint marks and a preliminary communication with the transportation director, it appears curb cut ramps at those 2 locations in the median strip will not be included at this time, which seems a wasteful shame since they're going to be out there doing this work. Until it's done, there will be no ADA accessible pedestrian route between East Main and Long, that is between Wycomico Middle School and Y-High, nor an ADA compliant route from East Main to the Civic Center and the 200-plus residences soon to be built at the new Salisbury Lake development. So I'm urging you to try to make this change happen so that while they're out there working on this project in the current sidewalk improvement, which is not started on site yet, to ensure that we have complete, we like the word complete streets, complete wheelchair accessible path along this very important route. I think to delay and return later to finish this just doesn't make sense. On a related concern, about 2 weeks ago, there was a newly constructed standalone section of sidewalk that appeared in front of 222 Glen Avenue. Neighbors are upset. I'm upset since I go that route every couple of days. It's both a hazard and it's non-ADA compliant. My understanding of city policy is that the Director of Infrastructure and Development, per Municipal Code 1648-020, is responsible for deciding the placement of sidewalks in new subdivisions, and this was a subdivision of the old historic Costin Gosley house to add a brand new home. And in this case, that decision should be looked at again. Clearly, per the new subdivision plat, that sidewalk as constructed was not placed in the typical sidewalk easement, which have made a lot more sense. Instead, it is now way out in the street, affecting neighborhood on-street parallel parking. It's a driving and pedestrian hazard, as well as being non-ADA compliant, since there is a sharp drop-off at both ends. Is there any way the city can make this right? At least, I suggest a meeting with the neighbors. Finally, I have some questions for you all about communication procedures. I hope this is off the time thing. Could someone explain to me what happens to emails?
Ms. Royston, your 4 minutes are up, sweetheart.
What happens to emails sent to all city council members at Salisbury.Maryland? I'm allowed to ask a question, and
But your
it
4
doesn't
minutes
count.
are up.
Yeah.
Okay, well then,
Ms. Royston, I would encourage you to
If
come
you can
find us
wait till
afterwards.
afterwards.
I would really like to
present
listen
them.
to
Yeah,
everything you had to
But she can
say.
wait until after
Yeah.
the meeting, and then
Yes,
she can.
absolutely, but
she can ask
I
the
encourage
same
you to come up
question.
and talk to us
Yes.
afterwards,
Yes.
please.
Come talk to me next. Next to speak is Nathan Cox. 4 minutes, Mr. Cox, and I will tap twice when you're 30 seconds. And as I said before, no, not being inconsiderate, there's a time that's been given to us, so we have to adhere to the timing.
I'll try to be quick.
Yes.
After last week, I was kind of inspired to speak anyway. A little nervous though. So I'm Nathan Cox. I'm kind of an up-and-coming filmmaker in a sense, who I've written a very long story about my life when I was younger down here. So I moved to Baltimore for several years, got my degree there, and after moving back home from Baltimore 6 years ago, I did not like what home became. In the meantime, I continued to pursue my goal of filmmaking and such, and produce my story as a TV show. And as I always say though, my story, as I have faith that it will happen one day, my story will do for Salisbury what Runaway Bride did for Berlin times 10, since it is a TV show. However, that I started wondering, do I want that if I have so much contempt for Salisbury? So to balance that and figure, what is more important, contempt or career? So that's why I just wanted to say why I'm here. If you see me at city council meetings, I want to try to be a voice so I have less contempt about Salisbury. I wanted to say real quickly what some of the biggest problems are in my mind. Before I left, as far as I know, Salisbury was the 3rd worst in the state for drugs, homelessness, and crime. And when I came back, I'm convinced, after being mugged by 3 individuals next to Prince Street Elementary School, that it was only gotten worse since I left. I have never been assaulted in Baltimore. I've gotten close, like battery or whatever. I feel a lot less safe in Salisbury than I do in Baltimore, especially as a former pedestrian. But hopefully that will change, and I feel definitely less safe, less safe, especially for people who drink at least late at night, who walk the riverfront when there's no protection for them if they fall into the river any longer after taking away the fencing. I will say I do applaud, although I did not look it up, I do applaud the long-awaited sidewalks that are coming to the northern quarter of Salisbury. That's at least a decade in the making. That is like probably the most dangerous part of all of Salisbury for pedestrians. Don't know how many accidents there are, but I feel in different ways it is kind of sad how Salisbury it feels like Salisbury is trying to be more like Baltimore, like making traffic and parking more difficult, and of course reverting to single-use paper bags instead of getting rid of plastic bags. That's a lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense to me. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. Just wanted to toss up my comments about how Salisbury is, and I hope to see a change. Until then, I'll continue attending as many city council meetings as I can. I apologize for getting here so late, and I hope things improve.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Cox.
Nathan.
Thank you so much. We will now get into the administrative comments? Administration?
I'm going to let Mr. Mayor.
We're gonna let the mayor.
Yeah.
Couple of things. First of all, schools will be opening.
There's one more.
Is it? Yeah.
Now we know. Now we know.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Ms. Gibson. Ms. Kay Gibson.
I'm Kay Gibson. I'm a resident of Salisbury. A couple of weeks ago, I submitted a request to the departments to find out how many condemned and the addresses of the condemned city buildings in the city of Salisbury. I was told there was no list, and that information wasn't available. Now, that's hard for me to believe, since the city condemned the buildings. They certainly must know where they are. They certainly must have an address, and I would like the list of the condemned buildings. Next, I made the same mistake all of you did when you tried to find out about drug and alcohol treatment. I submitted a request for the location and address of the alcohol treatment centers. Doesn't exist, as you all found out. And you're talking about writing an ordinance to cover this. We can certainly do certain things. Some things we can't, because they're controlled by the state legislature. But we can request that every one of them register. We can inspect them the way we inspect apartment buildings. We can put limits on their distance from schools, parks, and playgrounds. We can, once not the ones that currently exist, but new ones, we can require fire suppression. They can certainly do it, even in historic buildings, because they did it in the Parsons Center. Density, we can regulate the density, which seems to be a major concern with people that have come here. We can say one alcohol treatment in every 4 square blocks. Regulate the density. We're not saying they can't be in residential centers. We're saying that each area can only absorb so many of these treatment centers. We can require they're serving meals. They need to have a professional kitchen if they're going to be serving food. And that kitchen needs to be inspected by the health department to make sure that it's safe for the residents to eat the food out of the, okay? I know we've had several people very concerned. We need to get something done. We need to get something quick. The other concern is code department. I'm really concerned about the height of the hedges at corner properties. It is regulated in code. They're not supposed to be more than 2.5 feet tall for 35 feet on each side of the corner. Drive through Salisbury. It's not happening. It needs to happen. It's a safety issue. And I'd appreciate it if you all would at least supply positive verbal encouragement to those that are responsible for enforcing the code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson.
Thank you so much. Now back to administration comment.
I still don't have anything to add.
School's opening soon. Please be careful when you're driving, especially to the newer, younger students who aren't used to traveling on buses and getting off and on buses. So please be careful and help us protect them. Also, SU is back in session, if you couldn't tell. There are many more cars on the road, so let's be really careful. On a positive note, over the last several meetings that we've had, there have been a significant number of appointments to committees. And for a long, long time, we have not had that kind of input. So if you have comments, and I encourage you to get involved. Don't just sit there and complain. Step up, get on a committee where you can make a difference, and have your voice heard there. All of a sudden, people are coming out of the woodwork complaining about things. Where were they when we were talking about the design of all these things? Next, publicly I've made a condemnation of the actions of the lynching. And I made it on media, on Don Rush's interview, and I stick by that statement. No one deserves to be lynched, and the people that were doing it should have been punished. And I still uphold that condemnation. Thank you for the input on the sidewalks and the disability things. We're going to look at that carefully. And the last thing I have is, if you can, please donate blood. Our supply is still extremely low. So thank you.
Andy, is there anything that you would like to say? Any comments?
No, the only comment I'd like to make is if anybody does have questions, and I know it's unable to have a back and forth during public comment, but I do have business cards and would love to follow up if there's any clarifications or follow-up questions that people want further information on. I would love to be able to chat. And Randy, I've got some thoughts for this for you specifically. So
I'm going to start from my left, Ms. May.
It's exciting. Wonderful. Well, first things first, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We always appreciate the public comments. It helps us know that we're heading in the right direction. Additionally, I want to thank everyone who we appointed today for these commissions. It was so nice to see you all actually come out. Additionally, it was nice to see some younger faces. I have to say, I'm excited to see that next generation get involved. So thank you all so much for taking your time, because, you know, it takes a village, especially when it comes to this city. So please encourage your friends, encourage your family to join. We have plenty of openings still available here at the city for feedback. The actions that you take in these committees and commissions directly feed into the policy that we work here at the city. Additionally, I want to thank Monica Brooks for coming out and providing her comments there. Absolutely looking forward to seeing a follow through with that formally. The way I see this going with the firehouse is this is an opportunity for the city to reclaim a space that was once used for hate and to turn it into an opportunity for progress for the city and reclaim it for community. So I'm really looking forward to that. Additionally, April and I had the opportunity to go out in her district this weekend, and we joined the Watchmen, and we did a walk and prayer vigil at Pemberton Manor Apartments. It was a lovely opportunity to see the community gather, but not only that, it was nice to have April and myself, representatives of the city, and then active Chief Mindshine was in attendance. It's clear that we are in a pivotal point here with the city. This is a community that's hurting. This is a community that's speaking out and vocalizing their needs. So I just want to let the community know that the city is listening. I know I've had personal conversations with Chief Mindshine right now about how we can address some of these public safety issues moving forward, and I want this to be a collaborative opportunity. So I'm going to be working hopefully with the rest of the council, the rest of the city administration to find some ways where we can pull the community in for these conversations to make our streets a little safer and ultimately make sure our kids are safe. So those are my comments for the evening. Thanks, April.
A couple things. I know that for the Calvert Street redesign to go in one way, I just want to make sure, and I know we talked about it before, but I want to make sure that we roll that out prior to it being changed to the public so they can get used to that change. Well, they're not supposed to be turning left anyway on 13th, but the bottom line is when they get to, I think, was it Poplar Hill? Okay, then it's still two-way. So I just want that to be more like rolled out earlier. The same thing with, I had a lot of requests for listing upcoming projects. For an example, several constituents are concerned about the design on Eastern Shore Drive. And I know we have seen it, and we have talked about it a while ago, in several sessions, but I didn't know how soon that was coming up or if it could be any new projects we have going on in the city, like roll out, maybe if we can, by like a week or so before, so we can have the public make sure that they either remember it, see it, give it full exposure. The other thing is, I do want to say that following up with Ms. Brooks, there is a book, I read this book 3 times, The Silent Shore, and Dr. Chavis actually is the author of this. And the first time I read this book, and it talks all about the lynching of this young man, Matthew, I was very stunned by some of the things that went on and the details of the investigation. He uncovered a box in the governor's office, our governor's office, years ago, and at the bottom of that box was the notes and information on this case. At the time of this lynching, the state ordered an undercover investigation, sent a detective down here. He was undercover for nearly a year, I believe, and picked up a significant amount of information. And the information that was uncovered and things that came to light from that was absolutely stunning. I actually had to read the book 3 times to really, you can get lost in the who, what, where, when. You got to connect the people and the events too. It's a very good book. It's very educational, and it was very moving book. So this book is, talks about, our city's history, and I think it'd be great, if anyone wants to know more about it, please read that book. There are so many things going on in the city. We have so many great things going on between Third Fridays and events, and so just get out and enjoy whatever is offered, and just know that our area tends to stay in the critical area for blood, for donation of blood, especially this time of year, again, during the holidays, but this time of year with Ocean City, with accidents or whatever else goes on. Donation of 1 pint could save 3 lives. You could also sign up for plasma. You can also sign up to be an organ donor. These things are game changers and life changers for many people you may or may not even know. So I encourage that. Thank you.
Okay. Michelle.
You're going to mirror first. Okay, so I just want to put it in a heads up for everybody. Next month is going to be packed with events in the city, and I'm going to start beating the drum of volunteering for the Folk Festival, which is the 22nd through the.
I was gonna say, I even pulled the website up.
It's not my fault. She put it in front of. She put me first. I don't know. So yeah, the Folk Festival's coming up the 22nd through the 24th. It does not happen without the hard work and dedication of dozens and dozens and dozens of volunteers. I personally love working the Bucket Brigade. It's a lot of fun. You get to get out there and dance and enjoy the shows, and help raise money that supports the festival while you're at it. So I highly encourage anybody who's interested. There are jobs for everybody. All hands on deck. We would really appreciate if you could volunteer for that. Let's make the first Maryland Folk Festival here a huge success. So I'm just going to put a call out for that. But there are a lot of events coming up. So you can find a lot of events on Facebook and that sort of thing. There are a lot of things going on in the city that come in the coming months. So just want to put a shout out for that, though.
I want to say the website is mdfolkfest.com.
Oh, there you go.
That's where you can go and volunteer. Still got some hot days, so Miss Kay, make sure you're not out in the hot sun in the middle of the day if it's 90 degrees. Also, everyone, this is hurricane season, so make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have emergency kits and a plan for your family in case of emergency. That is all I have.
That's all you have?
Yep.
Well, I have a load of stuff. Because I was actually busy this weekend. But I first want to speak about me being a member of the VFW Auxiliary 10159. And if you have youth and young people, we have now some essay contests where they can win money and get scholarships. And I put it on Pack 14, and I am emphasizing, and I will be emphasizing it every single meeting, because the deadline is October the 31st. One is Voices of Democracy, and those are for grades 9 to 12. And it's an audio, and it's 3 to 5 minutes. And that, like I said, that deadline is the 31st of this year, of October. And the theme is, what are the greatest attributes of our democracy? The next one is the Patriot's Pen, and those grades are 6 to 8. And there's 300 to 400 word essay. And the theme for that is, how are you inspired by America? And as well, that essay deadline is the 31st. And if anyone is interested, they can get in touch with me. I am the scholarship and youth chairperson for the DFW 101 auxiliary. So if you would like to get in touch with me, my number is 410-726-8478. And as I said, and if anyone needs to get my number again, you can meet me after the meeting. I'm getting ready to go on a trip with about 20 to 30 youth to Killings Pond Saturday. So Monday, I may not be here because I may be insane. No, sight. I will be just fine. But it's a trip that was sponsored by Salisbury Advisory Council on Youth Activities, and it's a trip that donations were given to sponsor that trip. And we did that because there are a lot of young people, a lot of youth, young men and young ladies, who don't get to go anywhere during the summer months. Don't get to go anywhere, period. So we thought it would be robbery to not take them somewhere for the summer and let them just have a wonderful time. So I'll be leaving 9 o'clock in the morning and not returning, and Michelle's going with me. And we won't probably be returning until 7 because we're going to have a cookout, and then they're going to the water park there. So they're going to have a lovely time, and I just hope that everybody prays for our safety and nothing happens there and home and in between at the park, because things do happen, and I've had parents sign vouchers and waivers so we won't have that liability. Also, I went to the prayer visual along with Megan yesterday, and it was awesome. I can say it was awesome. First Baptist Church had their community day Saturday. I was there. Went to a crab feast Sunday. Had an awesome time there. Jack got to say some of his last goodbyes there, and Angela teared up, and I teared up, but I choked up because I didn't want to cry. I went Friday to the Riverwalk Amphitheater to hear Pristine Rain. They were excellent, and I'm going to be perfectly honest. This is my second time going to the amphitheater, well, actually to hear music. And I'm going to tell you, it's something lovely. It is really relaxing. It's lovely. I enjoyed myself, and I will be going back time and time again to enjoy the music and the reverence that you get there. It's just calming. It was calming, and I was just sitting by myself and just enjoying myself. So if you ever get the opportunity to go on Fridays when they have that, please make sure you get there, because it is relaxing and it's fun, and you get to see people that you haven't really seen in a long time. And also, I went to the Thunder Guards anniversary, and believe it or not, it was a great festivity. And another thing, they support me in everything I do, and I support those who support me. People, I used to have a bad look at motorcycle gangs and guys and stuff, but I'm gonna tell you something, they're one of the best bunch of guys that I have ever seen in my life. They waited on me hand and foot, and my girlfriends that attended with me, they waited on me hand and foot. I didn't have to get up and do a thing, and everything was so lovely there. I mean, when I say lovely, it was lovely. So, we get these perceptions of people and groups and stuff like that. We need to take other looks at them and see what they do on the inside. Don't look at the outside, because there are good groups of people. Let me see if I did anything else this weekend, because I did a lot. I actually really was working it out. I'm gonna miss you, Jack. I'm gonna say this every time till you go. Till you leave that seat over there. And I enjoy working with my colleagues. And I really love Kim. Kim's such a sweet person. So, you know, we've got a great team here, and we want to keep this great team. And as, was it Mr. Taylor or Mr. Inslee said about, or was it you that said about us getting, you know, banged up and yeah, we have been, but it's a learning experience for us as well. And we're thankful that you come and that you speak. We need to hear those things. And as Jack said, our mayor said, come, get on those committees and those commissions, get on them. Say what you feel, mean what you say. Getting on them makes a big difference. You have a voice anyway. And coming here, not that we just give you 4 minutes, but we appreciate it. We do. I don't mean any harm. I'm not a rude person. I can be, but I'm not. Intentionally, we don't mean to cut you off at 4 minutes, but if we have so many people, you know, it gets to be kind of ongoing. But we thank you for coming and continue to come. We want you here. We want to know. We need to know. And we thank you so much. Thank you. So we are adjourned. Our city council meeting for this evening.